Greetings. Today we are going to talk about the economic geography of India. I will start the discussion with the economic history of the state. To fully understand the economic geography and economic history of India, we shall start with crafts and industries of this state to figure out what materials and products are historically essential for the economy of this region. Metal crafts is an essential craft because geographically there was a lot of iron in India. On the slide you can see some handicrafts that were made of metal. Now we can talk about the industries of India. The textile industry is one of the major industries for the economy of India because it provides jobs to many people and has a big export income. Food processing is also vital for the Indian economy. Steel industry is a historically old industry. The availability of raw materials has made this sector very crucial for the nation's economy, as well as the petroleum industry. Now we shall talk about modes of production, socialism, and impact of colonial heritage in India. Let's start with the definition of modes of production. According to Bell, 2013, the mode of production refers to the varied ways that human beings collectively produce the means of subsistence to survive and enhance social beings. Marx classifies six modes of production, which you can see on the slide. The major mode of production in India is labor. The India had passed through all modes of production except the last one. Socialism in India emerged after the Great Russian Revolution and referred to as the gain of independence, because the socialists were one of the first to call for independence. After independence, India adopted a socialist economic model with elements of capitalism. India adopted a similar to the USSR centralized and nationalized economic program called five-year plans. But socialism in India was stopped because of commodity shortages, economic stagnation, etc. In 1970, people were disappointed with socialism and started to move towards the liberalization of the Indian economy. The debate continues on the economic impact of British imperialism on India. The problem was raised by conservative British politicians who heavily attacked the East Indian Company, claiming that they had destroyed the Indian economy and society. According to Ray, 1998, continues this line of reasoning, saying that the new economy brought by the British in the 18th century was a form of plunder and disaster for the traditional economy of Mughal India. Ray believes that British have exhausted food and money and imposed high taxes, which helped cause the terrible 1770 famine that killed one-third of Bengal's people. The major and the worst impact of British colonial rule was the economic stagnation and failure of industrialization in India. How? Now we shall discuss the industrialization in India. The British colonial rule was stopping the industrialization, so until independence, India was on the path of non-industrialized state. Under the first prime minister, a centralized planned economy was established. He believed that for fast industrialization, the powerful state with centralized planned economy was essential. So we can conclude that industrialization in India was achieved by vast intervention of government in economic sector. Geography has undoubtedly influenced industrialization with its unique resources in India, and now we will talk more about that.
So let's talk about resources, economic and social structure in India. Natural resources affected not only economic development but also economic structure. In third world countries where the level of development is still very low, resources are important because they lack capital and technology, and India is one of these countries. According to Atlas 2019, India's main natural resources are forest and land, important for maintaining the ecological balance and exporting raw materials and fuels, as well as providing jobs since India mainly exports raw materials and agriculture. Mineral resources, as you can see on this slide, very, as we already said, are very important for the economic development of the country. For example, India's soil meets 25% of the country's needs. Now, a few words about major sectors of the economy. According to Data World Bank 2029, the major sectors in India are agriculture, industry, and services. You can see industries of these sectors on the slide. It should be noted that the agricultural sector, which represents 16% of GDP, is one of the most important sector of employment because 43% of population is employed there. The industry sector generates 29% of GDP and 26% of total employment. And finally, the service sector is most important in terms of income, as it accounts for more than 50% of GDP and provides more than 32% of total number of jobs. Here you can see some of the major industries on the map, such as iron and steel, textile, and cement. And also, very important industries are automobile, petrochemical, and IT. All of these industries are the biggest contributors to the income of the country. On this map, you also can see the major agricultural industries such as jute, sugar, cotton, and their geographical concentration. Well, let's move to the labor market in India, and we cannot say that it is flexible. As the University of Delhi 2029 states, very strict government regulation leads to slow and poor quality job creation, which in turn led to an underground economy, low per capita income, and a huge growth in the informal labor sector. So, more than 90% of population is employed unofficially. Also, legislation creates conditions in which it is not profitable for employers to hire workers because of the high taxes and certain laws. For example, under which companies with more than 100 employees need permission from the state to fire them, and people for the same reason find it difficult to find a job. Because of the large number of people employed in the informal sector, there are widespread unions fighting for safe working conditions and rights of workers. If we talk about literacy rate, more than 74% of population are literate, and the school is divided into four segments that you can see on this slide. Moving on, here is a population pyramid. We can see that the most of the population, according to Data World Bank 2020, is between 10 and 19 years old. Hence, India rarely face the problem of an aging, which can adversely affect the economy. From the claim figures, as Data World Bank 2020 states, we can mention the population growth rate of 1.1%, a death rate of 7.3 deaths per 1,000 people, and a fertility rate of 2.35%. Regarding the stage of demographic transition, India is on the stage 3 because the mortality rate is decreasing year by year, as we see in this graph, as well as the fertility rate of the population. But the numbers are not so slow as to place India on the fourth stage. And finally, talking about the organization of population concentration, we can say that more than 37% of people live in cities. That process started after the capitalism mode of production, as was stated in the first part, and the largest concentration of population, according to Data World Bank 2021, is in the east and the north. Also, the population density is quite high, 426 people per square kilometer. In conclusion of this part, we can say that India is rich on natural resources that are very important for its economy. The labor market isn't flexible because of the strong government regulation, and India is in the third stage of demographic transition and face little or no aging.
According to the Heritage Organization 2022, economic freedom in India for this year is estimated at 53.9 and it ranks 27th out of 39 countries in the Asia Pacific region, and its overall score is well below the regional and global averages. India's economic growth has slowed since 2017, it turned negative in 2020 but recovered the next year. However, India recorded an overall gain in economic freedom since 2017 and remains in the middle ranking in the category mostly not free. While monetary freedom is strong, investment and financial freedom lag behind. India has 17 preferential trade agreements. The average tariff rate is 7% and there are 358 non-tariff measures. Despite some liberalization policies, state institutions dominate the banking sector and capital markets, foreign participation is very limited. Now we would like to talk about the accurate economic indicators for India for the year 2020. On this slide you can see the GDP for 2020. Further, you can see GDP per capita and the graph which shows comparison with neighboring countries. Now, here is India's HDI. Talking about inequality in India, according to the Indian Express 2020, India stands out as a poor and highly unequal country with a wealthy elite. On this slide, you can explore the graph that shows the Indian productivity. The data from the Economic Times shows that as for December 2021, there were 53 million unemployed people in India. On the slide, you can see several figures which show the Indian trade openness, exports plus imports as a percentage of GDP from 1960 to 2020. On this slide, there is a graph that shows India's foreign trade. Further, you can see the main directions of exports of goods from India in 2020, top export commodities, main trading partners or sources of imports, and finally, top import commodities. The Economic Times 2021 claims that before the pandemic, the US was India's largest trading partner, while China was at the second spot. India's integration into the world economy has intensified since the early 1980s. The SAARC countries form one of the world's least economically integrated regions. This remains in place despite the Association Free Trade Area coming into effect in 2006. SAFTA has been hampered by political tensions between India and Pakistan, which are its largest members, so it's highly unlikely that these organizations will form the basis for greater economic integration in India. Nevertheless, there are also India's more promising integration arrangements. For example, BBIN initiative provides a framework for the coordination of these countries in the areas of trade, communications, and resource management. ASEAN represents perhaps the best prospect for Indian economic integration, as the India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement has led to a significant increase in bilateral trade for India. Dmitry Shalis, 2019, argues that G20 is obviously the top priority for India since New Delhi is directly interested in influencing the processes of world transformation. Talking about economic and social problems in India, the most pressing one is reliable infrastructure. Here you can see key issues in the transport sector. Deloitte 2022 reports that the next stumbling block is consumer demand. Consumer spending has lagged substantially from pre-COVID-19 levels, implying that pandemic-related uncertainty is taking a toll on consumer confidence and ability to spend. Further, public investment. India currently has the highest budget deficit of any comparable country, and its debt is at an all-time high. Talking about social problems, first of all, it's worth mentioning poverty, since India is one of the most overpopulated countries, second only to China. The next important social problem of the country is the high level of corruption that is prevalent throughout the country, and India is considered one of the 10 most corrupt countries in the world. Perhaps the most obvious problem in India is overpopulation. Consequently, India faces unemployment problems, which led to a great number of other issues. In general, there are lots of both economic and social problems in India, and they are all connected with each other, and you can see all of them on the slide. Finally, here are our conclusions that we made after the exploration of economic structure and development of India.